I was asked if I would do a video about my layout or my setup in Blender, and so this is just aimed at relative beginners like myself, and maybe it will help somebody who's just starting out perhaps. Alright, so here I am in Blender 2.79, just in the default startup, and right away you may notice that my colors look different than yours, and that's simply because I've come up to File, User Preferences, and under Themes I've chosen a preset of Science Lab. If I chose this one, it would look different and some of the colors would change, alright? But I'm just using Science Lab. I just find that it is the best one for my eyes, and I like the colors when I select objects and select edges and all of that. If I didn't like those colors though, or if I didn't feel I could see these edges well enough, not just the ones selected, the ones unselected, I could come up to File, User Preferences, and under the 3D view, the wire or the wire edit right now is the wire edit is gray there. So watch if I, let me just move this over here and I'll do that again. All right, if I select this color, and I'll just use the eyedropper, and if I select and say that, I now have a different color. All right, and if I want to go back to that, I can just select this, and it was a sort of a gray color like that. All right, so that's one reason I like that theme and how to change the colors. And of course, you can change colors for many different aspects of these, and then you can reset it as well. Another thing that I have is, if I duplicate this cube and just bring it over to here, I select with the left mouse button, as a lot of people do, although I think more people select with the right. All right, but I'm used to a Windows-based system, and I select with the left mouse button. And you can change this under File, User Preferences. For input down here, select with either left or right, and I've got left selected. When I go into edit mode, you can either do it down here and back to object, or you can hit tabbing into edit. I used to have this under add-ons, search Pi. I had this activated, and I may go back to that. Pi menu, UI menu, official. So when you hit tab, you get these other choices. Now, I don't tend to use them very much, but I thought this looked cool at first. And the thing is, sometimes I forget if I'm in object or edit mode, depending on my what I'm modeling. And if I just hit tab with this, I now know, okay, I'm going to go back to object mode. I'm going to edit mode. And if I do this and I hit edit mode again, I just stay where I am. Whereas when it's off, I don't know if this is just silly. Tab, I'm in edit mode, and the tab, I guess it's fine. I'm just not used to it. Anyways, all right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to scale it down, and I'm going to push it inside here. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to hide it because I can't see. Well, that's what I want to talk about. I'm going to hit the period key to zoom in on this, and I'm going to make this just a little bit more interesting by rolling my mouse up a bunch of times, and then going Control B. Did I lose them? No, Control B, I should be able to get them. There we go. E, Scale, Shift X. I just want to do this kind of thing. And then I'll put on individual origins, and I'll scale in the X, and we'll kind of get this kind of thing. Yeah, nothing much going on. Well, it's a little hard to see that, so let's hit N, and I like to put on under shading, ambient occlusion, and now, okay, I can see some shadows in there a little bit better. And let's get rid of the grid floor by clicking on display and grid floor. Now I've got that N, and I can close that side panel. T, of course, will close that. T will open it. All right, Alt H. All right, well, here's my big box, and this is a computer of some sort, right? And so, whatever, no, that's not what I want to do. Let's Control Z, let's Control R, and bring it up, and then do this. And of course, we got to put a bunch of edge loops on here, and a bunch of edge loops along here. you know, just like that. And you go, well, I need to work on the inside of that. I can hide it, but what if you want to see it relative to that outer part here? So what you can do is select your object that you want to be able to see through. You click on this box here and come down to display and click on textured and choose wire. And then you can see through it, and I can see my object and I can select it quite easily as well. And you can do whatever manipulations you need to do on that. Scale this in the X. And you can still sort of see relative to your main object, and then just turn it back to textured. Make sure it's selected though. All right, and there it is. This would, of course, work, you know, like if this was partially cut away or if this was made of glass and you could see through it. All right, so that's another thing to think about. Now, let's do another thing. Let's say I had a cube here and I scaled this in the Z and I scaled it in the X a bit, and I want to make a bookcase. Bring this up to here, and I say, okay, let me make sure, by the way, that my polys are off. I think they were flipped. Okay, so I could just put a bevel on right now, using add modifier bevel, get it the way I like it. Let's say that's what I want. And then I could just duplicate from that point, Shift D, and my second object will still have the bevel. I can turn it off if I want to. Or I can, of course, array this, and then each piece, let's minimize that, come down here, get rid of X. It's going to be 3 shelves long, but I think I need more space like that. All right, each piece will inherit the bevel because it's part of an array, and any change I make to this one, if I make them a little shorter, they will all get shorter. So an array is a wonderful thing. If you do it that way. But let's say I didn't have a bevel and I'm just starting to make this thing, and I go Shift D, okay, I'll put another shelf there, and I'll go Shift D, I'll put another shelf right there, and let's do the side, Shift D, rotate Y 90, and let's move it out and up, and let's say we like that, but let's make it a bit wider. I'm just going to do it in object mode. Shift D, and let's say we want that one there. You go, that's the perfect bookcase. I love it. Okay, let's start adding a bevel now. So I select that piece and I go bevel, and I work on this until I get it the way I like it. You go, that's perfect. That's just what I want. Now, okay, so it's one segment, 0.016. So let's go put the bevel on there and fiddle with all those numbers. If you want the exact same modifier or modifiers, plural, on as you had here, select all of the objects and then this one last. Now I know that you could group all these together. You could just select all these pieces, you know, and go Control J and they'll all get it. But now they're joined and I can't move, so I'm not going to do that. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the pieces, and then the one with the modifier or modifiers that I like, select it last, like parenting. Select it last, so I'm just holding Shift, and I selected that one last, Control L, and then choose modifiers. And then they all have the modifiers on them. I can still move this now and position it the way that I like it. I can copy it and rotate Z90 and bring it back here. Put it roughly there. Let's say one is the front, Control, one is the back. That's another important thing. And I can scale this in the X so it's like this. Move it a bit. You know, that kind of thing. And I got my other piece. I'm not saying that's where I would put it, but they all have the bevel on them. All right? So that's another useful thing. There, deleted everything. Great. Okay, so I did themes and I did you change the color, the modifiers, the left click. I think one more thing that I would like to talk about is the windows, because that really stumped me at first in Blender. Now, of course, let's say I've got a plane. Okay, I'm going to go 7, to look down on it. I want to make like a floor out of this, or the surface of something, a wood surface. And I am in the 3D view. You can switch from default to, say, UV editing. All right. If I want to close this toolbar, hit T. This panel is associated with these windows here, so I hit N to close that. T would open up its own one. All right, so I'm ready to UV map or unwrap this object, and that's fine. I find compositing even a little bit more useful. I'm going to hit N to close this, and then I'm going to grab right here, and I'm going to pull it up. All right, this way, I'm going to hit period key to zoom in on this, and number 7 is to look down. This way I have my 3D view, my UV layout here, and this for, well, whatever you want. I'm actually going to use this as a node editor. That's what I'm going to do right there. So what I would do with this is, well, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go into edit mode, and I'm going to hit U, project from bounds, and there's my unwrap. It's just a simple plane. I'm going to open an image that I want to put on there. Just a piece of wood. Let's take that image and put it there. So there, I can see it there, but I don't see it here yet, even if I go into object mode and materials. Now let's go back to median point, by the way. It's just dark. It's like expecting an image there, but I don't see it yet. If I use this as a node editor, if I switch over to cycles and go new material, make sure that you're on the materials. There we go. All right. I now have a material on here, but we want to see the wood. So Shift A, shader, sorry, texture, not shader, image texture, drag the color into there and choose wood. And by the way, if that's too small, you can either zoom in or you can go Control up arrow to make it full screen, Control down arrow to come out. But I want to be able to see everything at once. My node editor, my UV window, so I go, okay, now I can see that there. Go into edit mode and go, wow, it doesn't quite look the way I want it. I need to scale this. So let's go into here. There we go. It wasn't all selected. I need to scale it. It needs to look like that, and maybe be moved over there. That's what I'm looking for. And at the same, now that that's there, at the same time, I need to maybe do something else here. I'll put a mix shader there, and I will put a glossy shader on it as well. Okay, it's going to go nuts, but we're going to fix that soon. We're going to try to. It's going to have a little bit. And we're going to darken this a bit, but I just want it a little bit shinier, and I can see it all happening. And then I can say, okay, now let me zoom out so give myself some room. Shift A. I'm going to put in image texture again, and let's just drag this over to here. Nothing's going on yet. Let's just do that. Okay, I can see that's like a lot of bump right there. And that's not what we would want necessarily, but I can see it, and I can still go into edit mode and go, wait, no, that's not where I wanted it. I wanted it there. And so that's the benefit, I think, of having all of these windows open, and then I can just still come back to the default view. And if I switch this over to material, you know, there's my material right there. Okay, so that's a little bit about how I use the interface.